All right, so now we're in great high def new lighting. Lovelace Brothers. See how this goes.
Podcast 5?
5. Or no, that might be 6.
All right.
So we're getting up there. Yeah. So I know one of your hobbies is plants and gardening. You're the green thumb of the family for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're into succulents.
Ever since I moved to the desert.
Yeah. Cool. So you want to start us off on how you got into the gardening or why you like it?
Well, I think a lot of it came from our grandmother, Geneva.
Mm-hmm.
She was always into gardening and mostly plants for food, right? Like strawberries. She grew a ton of strawberries, and yeah, so she got me into that. I think Grandpa on Grandpa Kelly gave me some cactus when I was really young too.
Okay. I remember that like barrel out in the backyard, a half cut barrel. Yeah. I remember that you had that one cactus that looked like it had fur on it. And as we're kids, it looked like a cat or something.
Cotton or something.
Yeah, and like you wanted to pet it, and that didn't turn out too well.
Yeah, it's a trap.
Yeah, so what is the deal with that? Why did that cactus have hair? Any idea?
Don't know.
I'm sure there's some natural adaptation going on.
Maybe to hold moisture? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was white as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the spines are pretty obvious, right? That's just to keep animals from eating them.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, what makes a cactus different from strawberry?
Well, a more interesting question might be, what's the difference between a cactus and a succulent?
Well, that is because I thought they were the same thing.
Right. So the big difference is that cactus have spines.
Uh-huh.
And succulents don't.
Okay.
So like a jade plant that just has, the meaty stalk and meaty leaves, but
yeah.
there's no spines.
Right. So the ground cover, like ice plant and red apple, that's all succulent?
Or succulent family, yeah.
Family.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're succulents because they can live in low water conditions.
Yeah, and usually they're like very juicy.
Yeah. So they can maintain the water in their leaves better than like a typical plant.
Yeah, so that they typically have like a waxy surface.
Yeah.
And they're just full of water.
Mm-hmm.
And like you squeeze them, they'll ooze water.
Right. So I'm guessing if you're in the desert and you're thirsty, cactuses might be a good place to look for some water.
Yeah, or succulents for sure. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Like another interesting like in between is the aloe vera plant.
Mm-hmm.
So that one famously has like little hooks, which aren't technically needles, so it's not classified as a cactus. It's a succulent. And typically cactus also will have like a central like barrel and a central point that grows out and then like rows of spines on it. That's not always the case, but that's a typical pattern.
Yeah. And do you know if like as a cactus, I know there's like blooming cactuses that have like these beautiful like flowers.
Yeah.
Do they all do that? Not necessarily.
I don't think necessarily, yeah, but a lot of cacti do.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another weird in-between plant called a euphorbia.
Yeah, I've heard that name.
So it looks like a succulent in the sense that it has these like meaty stalks, but when you crack it, the sap is white. And the most popular one is called sticks on fire or fire sticks.
Yeah.
So you look at it and it's got this like meatiness to it, but you crack it and then it's just got white sap.
Like I've noticed most of the weeds in the backyard tend to have a white sap too. I don't know what that is, but why that's there. Interesting. And the other weird thing about cacti, maybe this is a difference between cacti and succulents too, is you can just chop off a piece of cactus, throw it on the ground, and then it'll just start growing a new cactus.
Not as much as a succulent. I think succulents do that more than cactus.
More than cacti. Okay.
Yeah. The cacti a little more finicky where they have to have that central like growing point. And typically they need to dry first before they'll root. And if you touch them to the ground too soon, this is also true with succulents, but they can like root faster. They'll rot. So if it's got a wound that's raw and it's on the ground, it'll tend to rot. Whereas succulents a little more hardy.
Yeah, but it's still pretty wild because most plants usually have some kind of seed and pollination and they germinate. But I don't know. So is that just a strange thing that cactuses and other succulents can do, is to like spontaneously grow from and root from their meaty body parts?
No, other plants can do that too.
Okay.
Like trees can do that.
Trees?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Or famously, hemp plants and marijuana plants.
Yeah.
They call it cloning, where you just take a piece of it and then root it and then start a new clone.
Okay. I know trees though. Like if like you have a branch you throw on the ground, it'll just like root.
You take some care. But yeah, you'd have to like dry it, and typically what a gardener would do is they'd use rooting hormone because they have certain like enzymes that they release to like tell the plant, hey, grow roots, and then they'll grow roots.
That's crazy. Wow, I didn't know that.
Like another one that roots pretty fast is bougainvillea. I actually have a bougainvillea cutting right now that's growing out of a pot.
Jeez. That's really wild. But so that's just an ability these plants have. That's not like their main mode of reproduction though, right?
Yeah, and it also depends on the plant. So for example, you can't really do that with a palm tree. Because of the way the palm tree grows. It has like this central point where the leaves come out. And if you just take a leaf and plant it, it's not going to grow. Because you have to have that like central like generating point.
Yeah. So like I know that's like the famous one I know when growing up was like you chop off the top of a pineapple.
Yeah.
Right? And then from the center whatever thing it pops up a new plant.
Yep.
Yeah. It's so crazy. I'm wondering though, like, so there's this whole thing in like research in aging, and basically these like as these cells are dividing, they can only divide a certain amount of times before problems start happening. So I'm wondering if it's because it's like basically the same cells and the same genes just continually. So like if you have a pineapple and you clone the pineapple, like eventually is there going to be some kind of degradation?
Maybe maybe like plant cells have a different.
Yeah.
Or maybe they don't have the telomeres or whatever.
I was going to mention the telomere length shortening. But trees still have like a lifespan, you know, like their spans are like 800 years or something. Some of these like sequoias, whatever. But they still end up dying from old age.
And I do know some trees you could like scientifically get them to reproduce in ways that you couldn't just as an average person. Like you could take a leaf, like a maple leaf, and cut it in like certain spots and like put it in a petri dish and make sure it has appropriate nutrition, and then it'll like get little roots in weird places.
That's so cool. I mean, the genes are just like a series of instructions. Like we were talking with Dave last time, he's a programmer, and basically the program is only going to do what you tell it to do in certain circumstances. So if you have a leaf and you can hack the programming a little bit to get it to behave in certain ways. That's completely unnatural.
Right.
Yeah. That's so cool. And then also like grafting, I thought it was always really interesting as well on these like citrus plants. It's pretty wild that that's possible. Like if you try to do that to an animal rather than like a plant, like if I chop my arm off and put a chimp arm on my side, it's not going to go well.
Right. I mean, there's organ transplanting.
Yeah, but you still have to have like some kind of compatibility thing, and they can get rejected. Well, I guess the grafts can get rejected too. But yeah, life in nature is pretty wild. So with succulents and cacti, you don't really need to. And what was the euphorbia? Was the other one? You don't really need to care for them very much, or.
Yeah, depending on where you are, they don't require a lot of water. You just have to watch out. usually for freezing,
Mm-hmm.
because if it gets freezing, then like there's so much water in there, it'll turn to ice and it'll destroy the cellular structure.
Right.
So you got to watch out for frost. But if it gets too hot, they're fine. They thrive in hot climates.
Yeah, I didn't consider that. If they have so much water, they'll definitely just like kill themselves with the ice crystals inside. Which is ironically the reason, these all this like cryogenic, like freezing to, make you thaw out later. It's like same problem with the cactus, I guess. Can't get too cold.
Right.
Turn to mush.
Explode your cells.
Yeah. So do you have any current gardening projects going on?
Yeah, so I have a jade that I'm shaping into little trees. So it looks kind of like a bonsai.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the main one. I have other little projects that I haven't finished. Like I want to have this succulent garden out front, but I haven't tended to it in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And this other one on the side I've been meaning to tend to also, which I haven't.
Yeah, they're still thriving though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the cool thing about succulents. Yeah. They thrive on neglect.
Right. They just need to be kind of shaped into some pretty thing. It looks kind of like a jungle out there right now, but jungle's also cool.
I showed you that YouTube channel, Dr. Plants.
Yeah.
He recently released a new video where he has like a terrarium for each biome. So he has one for like the desert, another for forest, another for like plains.
Wow. Yeah, when you showed me, it was like some terrarium. He started out with shrimp and then kept adding more things. And it was like next to his bed as well. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
I would love to do that. Just do a vivarium kind of thing and have all these jungle plants and ecosystem of creatures. I think that'd be super cool.
Totally. I mean, I was even looking at how to build a bee hive. And I wanted to attach it to the window so you could actually like see the hive, and then the bees could also pollinate. That's actually in Marietta. There's like all sorts of like beekeeping local groups that do that. And I always thought that would be cool. Or like watching the ant colonies. It's just
exactly
fascinating. Cool. All right. Well, I don't know how you feel. Is a good first test with our new technology?
I think so. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess we will conclude, and we will see everyone another time.
Bye.